Hi, good evening, and welcome to Varsity Maine Live from the Portland Press Herald. I'm Travis Lazarczyk. Thank you for joining us. Alongside this week, we have Drew Bonifant from the Kennebec Journal and Morning Sentinel and Michael Hoffer from the Forecaster. Our guest this week is our first student athlete we've had here on Varsity Maine Live. He's a senior at Monmouth Academy. He is one of the best offensive linemen in the state of Maine. You can see his work when you watch the Winthrop-Monmouth-Halldale team. And he's a big reason right now that they are 3-0 and averaging around 43 points a game. And if you check out his Twitter handle, you'll see he has a 3.57 GPA. So please welcome to Varsity Maine Live, Jake Umberhind. Jake, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. It's a privilege and very sweet to be here.
Okay. Jake, you guys got some tough news this morning when you found out that this week's game against Lisbon's been canceled because of COVID. You're not the first team this happened to this year, and you're not going to be the last. But what, as a senior leader, are you kind of doing to kind of help your team get over the fact that you just don't get to play this week and you had nothing to do with that?
I'm just trying to inspire the team to work just like a game's going to happen Friday. Doesn't matter that we don't have a game, but we are going to work just as hard and be a better team than we were the week prior. And we're still trying to look for teams to play. So hopefully tomorrow or Saturday we'll have a team to play.
Yeah, I was hearing that MCI and Winslow were in a similar position last week, and kind of looking for some teams too. So hopefully that works out. But I mean, just talk about how this year has been going for you guys, 3-0, and offense in particular. I mean, it's really been everything's been clicking for you guys. How fun has that been to be a part of that, and what has it just done for the confidence for your team?
You know, it feels great scoring touchdowns. Our strong running back Dom Trot. Really, I've been making some big holes for him running for 200-plus yards a game against, what was it? Was it against Poland? Some great stats that we've been putting up, and I don't see us stopping at all. And
I didn't notice until today, but I forgot that Dom Trot broke his leg before this season.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story to be back this quickly. What does that say about that kid and what he brings to the table?
That kid, he's just 100% of the time, maybe 110%. That kid's crazy. I love being his teammate, and I love just him being on the team. He gives a great energy to the team.
Jake, I know this year's been challenging, and you mentioned the fact that obviously you got this rough news here, but how nice is it to be playing football again after what you missed out on last year? How much do you appreciate the opportunity?
You know what? I will never take football for granted. It's such a privilege to play my senior year. Missing out on junior year, that's a big year, and especially if you want to play collegiate level football. Missing out on junior year was really rough, but I had to keep pushing, do some winter lifting with my team and just myself, and work on my football skills during the summer. So it's really amazing to be as a team again and play and smack some pads. It feels real good.
Sure. Jake, how tough is it to, you guys are coming from 3 different schools. You don't see each other in class all day. You're not running into each other in the halls. How hard is it to kind of forge that team chemistry and identity when you just you're coming from 3 different directions to practice every afternoon?
Yeah, that's a real hard part. Having 2 schools is hard, but having 3 is even harder. So we like to just hang outside of practice, do a team session at somebody's house, watch some film, just hang out as guys, and it really builds a strong brotherhood within the whole team. And we like to do some team dinners, and that really builds a brotherhood.
Especially since all 3 schools are big rivals in every other sport.
Yeah, I always hear in school, I don't know how you guys are playing blah, blah, blah. It's always I don't see that. I see great players from all schools. I don't see a rivalry.
And Jake, obviously a part of your athletic status at Monmouth and with Monmouth is your cheerleading in the winter. And I mean, I got to think you hear the question. You're a football player. Why are you doing cheerleading? How'd you get into cheerleading? Kind of talk about how that came across and just how what it's like being part of such a different sport.
Yeah, when I was in middle school, I was doing wrestling, I was wrestling for a while, like 3 years or something. But I've gotten, like, I broke my leg, broke some fingers. I was tired of sitting out and just being a couch potato for like months at a time. So I stopped wrestling, and I was like, I don't like basketball. I'm not built kind of like a basketball player. So I was like, cheering, and of course the girls were all about it. So they just not forced me, but highly encouraged me to join cheering. And ever since then, I've been a strong back and helped our team go to states and win it.
Yeah.
It's been really enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm guessing you didn't need your arm twisted that much. Obviously, you have a lot of interest. You're kind of a Renaissance man. But looking ahead here, what are your plans for next year? Do you know what you want to do beyond high school?
Yeah, I've been really interested in engineering schools. Been really into math lately, and I really am interested in the maritime schools. So since Maine Maritime lost their football program, that was rough, because it was either between Mass or Maine Maritime, but Mass Maritime is looking pretty good as the ideal option for next year.
Is
You're
it
talking to a bunch of writers here with no math skills whatsoever, so good for you.
Yeah.
How do you like the new schedule in Class D? You're playing some teams that you've never seen before. You mentioned Poland last week. I don't think Winthrop Monmouth, although they ever played them, and then Bucksport earlier this year, and John Babst. What's this been like?
Yeah, it's really interesting because, I mean, for the past, I don't know, like 8 years or something, I can't remember. It's just always been the same people, same conference, same everything. But this whole people dropping down to 8-man and higher class schools dropping down to D, it's really interesting playing some different high schools, and it's kind of, I don't know, adds a different aspect of the game, trying to figure out other people's offenses and defenses. I think it's pretty good, pretty cool.
Jake, you were talking before the show about being student body president at Monmouth Academy. So in addition to football, and in addition to getting kind of your next year sorted out, like you were just talking about, is it tough to kind of balance everything and just kind of keep everything from from just kind of feeling overwhelming at all?
Oh, it is pretty stressful sometimes. I just gotta set my schedule. I gotta keep organized, which I think really helps prepare me for college. I think this senior year will definitely help in my organization skills to help me with college years. Yeah.
So, Jake, a much more serious of note than even football or cheerleading or anything else. But how do you get hair like that? I mean, you look at the three of us, and you look at the screen with the four of us on it. You're the only one that really looks good there from the neck up. How do you pull that off?
Started COVID. Yeah, I was just like, I'll just take a leap of faith and try it. Old retro styles are coming back, so I was like, You know what? Might as well try it. Nobody's going to see me for like 8 months, so I'll just let it be and let it grow. And you know what? It's it's funny. They just think of me, Jake the Mullet Monster, or Big Jake the Mullet Monster. It's funny. It's now part of my personality. But it's kind of sad to think that if I go to a maritime school in the regiment, I'll have to depart with it. Yeah.
Enjoy it while you have it.
Yeah, Jake, enjoy that Kentucky waterfall hockey hair as much as you can while you can.
Of course.
That's going to do it for you, Jake. We appreciate you being here. Good luck the rest of your season and with your future.
Thank you, guys. It's been great on the show.
All right.
Thank you.
Jake Umberhind from Winthrop Monmouth Halldale football, everybody.
See ya.
All right. Thanks, Jake. We're going to move on now to the athletes of the week, starting with Donovan Jackson from Lewiston football, who in his second game playing quarterback, he had 2 touchdown passes and 2 TD runs in the Blue Devils' 27-0 win over Mount Blue. Moving on to girls soccer, we have Molly Hayes from Kennebec. They might have been the last team in the state to get a game in this year, and Hayes scored 5 goals in an 8-2 win over Wiscasset as the Cobras finally got to play their first game this past week after weeks of COVID-19 delays. Mallory Audette of Coney Field Hockey, she had 4 goals in a 12-0 win over Waterville. Drew, tell us about what Mallory and the Coney Field Hockey team are doing.
Well, Coney's doing pretty well. They're 5-4. They're 5th in Class B, and Mallory has been a big part of that. She's been, one of the senior leaders for the team, in addition to one of the top players, and she's helped fill that leadership role that was kind of left vacant with the graduation of Julia Rennie, who was one of the top players in the state and likely would have been in the running for Miss Maine Field Hockey. So Coney had a big needed somebody to step up in that regard, and she's been doing that. You know, it hasn't just been her. Macy Freeman, Coach Holly Daigle, was saying is having a really strong season this year. But Mallory's got 10 goals in the season now, 11 points overall. So she's been somebody who Coney has been able to rely on. She's been coming through in different ways for them.
Okay. In boys cross country, we have Joseph Valero of Brunswick. He's a senior, and he edged teammate Eli Palmer by less than a second when the Dragons swept the top 5 places in a meet against Morse and Lawrence. Teresa Shaw from Lewiston Volleyball, she went 16 for 16 serving with 7 aces, had 17 digs and 5 kills, and was 14 for 14 attacking in a win over NYA, and that was the Lewiston Volleyball program's first win, so congratulations to the Blue Devils on that. Cape Elizabeth Field Hockey's Grace Gray scored a game-winning goal in overtime to lift the Capers to a 1-0 win over Lake Region. And she also had 2 goals and an assist in a 5-4 win over Freiburg. And Cape Elizabeth, Michael, is 7-0-1. Tell us what's working for them in Grace.
Yeah, this is one of the best stories of the fall down here in the greater Portland area as far as field hockey goes. They've really come out of nowhere to be dominant so far this season, and Grace has been a huge part of it. She really has the penchant for scoring the big goal. You referenced the overtime goal she scored. It seems like every night out she's scoring a goal or two, or setting up Camden Woods, who has a lot of big goals for the Capers too. They went to the state final in 2000. And since then, they've only been to the semis twice in the last 20 years. This is a team that's a legitimate contender. They're really going to measure themselves next Wednesday when they host York. And as you know, like Skowhegan in Class A, York's long been the gold standard, at least in the South in Class B. So anyone that wants to contend and make a run at a state title has to figure out a way to get past York. Cape's going to get that chance on their home field next week, and really looking forward to seeing how they measure up. But they're playing with great confidence, and right now they're playing as well as anyone.
Should be a good one. In football again, York's Hayden Henriksen, he caught 3 touchdown passes in the first half, then ran for 2 scores, one on a 70-yard run in the second half as the Wildcats beat Westbrook 55-14. York is at Cape Elizabeth on Friday in a big showdown of undefeated Class C South teams. Talked to Sean Green, the head coach at Cape Elizabeth this week, said really they have to contain Henriksen to have a shot to remain undefeated in this game. Lisbon Soccer, Hunter Brissett for the boys team, he assisted on 2 goals in the Greyhounds win over Winthrop on Saturday, then set up 2 more goals in a win over Halldale in a battle of 1-loss teams on Tuesday. Another field hockey player, Leah Thibodeau of Edward Little, she scored 2 goals in a win over Camden Hills on Monday. That was the Red Eddies' first victory of the season. Chevrolet's cross country, Annabelle Brooks, she led a 1-2-3 finish by the Stags against Scarborough and Massabesic. She won that race by more than a minute in a 5K time of 20:09.72. And finally, Lisa Vaselli of Richmond Girls Soccer, she scored 5 goals to lead Richmond to a 10-0 win over Temple. Moving on to the Varsity Maine top 10 polls. You can see these at varsitymaine.com. They are voted on by sports writers from throughout the Maine Today media family of papers. Starting with boys soccer, guys, Scarborough remains number 1. They have 5 first-place votes. Lewiston number 2 with 1. Brunswick 3. Yarmouth 4. And then the Wyndham boys, still hot, move into the top 5 at number 5. Michael, the Scarborough team just continues to roll.
They do, and it's hard as it is to believe. It's been 8 years since they've won a state title. It seemed like every other year, though, they were winning championships. They're on a little bit of a drought, but they've been pushed. You know, Class A South is very, very balanced this year, and coaches always say that coming into a season, but you don't necessarily believe it till you see it. I did the Wyndham-Falmouth game last night. This Wyndham team has become a great story. Won it on an overtime goal from Tyler Johnson. Great great crowd, as you can see in that photo. They get very excited after the winner. And, Falmouth is still the reigning Class A champion, if you will, from 2019. So a huge victory for Wyndham. But right now, Scarborough's probably a team to beat, but I think there's a lot of teams just a notch below, including Falmouth, Wyndham, South Portland, Portland, Deering. On any given night, there's probably 7, 8, 9 teams that they could knock another off, which will certainly make for a great postseason once we get there.
Girls soccer is a little closer at the top, but I think that's going to change because this poll was obviously taken before some games this week were played, actually, last night. Scarborough in first with 3 first-place votes. Number 2, Camden Hills with 2 first-place votes. But the Windjammers had their 71-game unbeaten streak snapped by Bangor just last night. So great job by the Windjammers to have such a long streak, but it is over. And Wyndham, number 3, they move up. They had a couple big wins lately, and they have a big game going on tonight against Gorham. I haven't seen a score on that. Yeah. Imagine we'll get something soon. This is the middle of a big test run for the Eagles from Wyndham right now. They had, they got Falmouth this week. They had Gorham. They've got Chevers coming up. Looking down the road, they're going to have Scarborough. So this Wyndham team continues to get tested. We'll see how they continue to do. Cape Elizabeth, number 1, with 1 first-place vote. They're number 4. They're number 1 in Class B South. And then that Bangor team we just mentioned that knocked off Camden Hills is number 5. Moving on to field hockey. Number 1, again, Skowhegan with 5 first-place votes. Number 2, Chevers gets the other first-place vote. And then followed by Massabesic, Scarborough, and Lawrence, which continues to roll in Class B North. Drew, what can stop Skowhegan short of kryptonite?
We're running out of options in Class A North. Oxford Hills was looking like a team that could have given them a tough time, and Skowhegan beat them 3-0. And Skowhegan is now up to 25-0 in total. And, from an overall scoring standpoint, they haven't allowed a goal all season. It's looking like they're just as formidable as they've always been. Although they did have a game where they beat Nokomis 1-0. So maybe it's a team that, that if you get them on a low scoring day, you can hang with them and maybe take them down that way. Maybe that was the closest thing to a blueprint we've gotten, but it's tough to think of a way that they could be tripped up here at this point with the way that they're playing. They look great. And you mentioned Lawrence in that poll, off to a great start. And they have 14 juniors in the class, in that class. They're deep, they're talented. 2 of those juniors, Hope Bouchard and Mackenzie Neto, are 2 of their top players, and they've just been answering all sorts of all questions that have been thrown at them as they've gone about their undefeated start. Yeah,
big win over Winslow this week for Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael, this Chevers team is getting the other first place vote. What can you tell us about them?
They're good and they're loaded, and not only do they have some veteran talent led by Taylor Torrey, they've got a terrific freshman by the name of Lucy Johnson who's scoring a lot of big goals. They passed their biggest test to date when they beat Scarborough last week, and right now it looks like they might be I haven't seen Massabesic, and I know they're traditionally very strong, so I have a feeling they'll be in the hunt too. But it seems like right now Chevrolet, especially potentially playing on their grass field in the playoffs, they have to like the position they're in right now.
Definitely. All right, and finally, we have the football poll. Thornton Academy, no surprise, gets all 7 first-place votes after just dismantling Bangor last week in a game of undefeated teams. And number 2 is Oxford Hills, coming off a very big win over Bonnie Eagle, who slides from 2 to 3. Then Portland at 4-0 moves into the top 5 at number 4, and then followed by perennial power in Class B South, Marshwood. Michael, we have, to just segue from football into the games of the week. Thornton and Bonnie Eagle playing each other, and Portland and Marshwood playing each other in a big B South game this weekend.
Yeah, Portland really made a statement to start the season by winning down at Kennebunk, and ever since then they've been flying high. And this, of course, is going to be their absolute biggest test. Marshwood has just been a power, and they're so solid and they're so consistent, and they don't hurt themselves. All these traits that you hear about the best football teams, be it high school, pro, big time college, whatever the case may be. Marshwood is one of those teams that, they're not going to beat themselves. Portland's going to have to come down. The only knock on Portland so far this year is they do take a fair amount of penalties. Sometimes they get away from themselves a little bit mentally. They can't afford that to happen down there in South Berwick if they want to come away with a win, because they certainly have the talent to go down there and win. And then if they do, the road to the regional title definitely goes through Fitzpatrick Stadium after already having beaten Kennebunk. So I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup to see how Portland does. And will they be able to keep their composure? And if they fall behind, how will they respond? Because they haven't really faced a deficit this year. You know what you're going to get from Marshwood. This, to me, is going to be the final piece of what we know about Portland, how good they really are.
Sure. And a big game in 8-man football this weekend. Undefeated Chevers at undefeated Mount Ararat. This could probably be for the number 1 seed in the 8-man large Southern Division. These are two teams that seem to be rolling right now. Mount Ararat, of course, won the the 8-man state championship in 2019 in the inaugural season. You know, we all wondered, all right, they had a year off, they had some graduations. Doesn't look like they have really taken a step back at all. And of course, Chevers coming down and just kind of rolling through the teams they've been able to play. Of course, they've had a couple games canceled due to COVID issues. Another thing this weekend, talking about games of the week, the Festival of Champions annual big cross-country race is at Belfast this week. This is going to have just about every high school team in Maine, some teams from out of state. This is kind of like the first big race of the championship season. This is the race where kids from all the different classes kind of get to test their mettle against each other before they go off to their conference and regional and then eventually state meets down the line. Drew, in Central Maine, what do we have for some big games coming up?
We have a pretty good field hockey game coming up on next Monday. It's going to be between Coney, that team that we were just talking about, and Nokomis. Coney 5-4 is 5th in Class B North. Nokomis is 6-2. They're in 4th place. So you get some position jostling there going on, and I feel like Nokomis is a team that maybe some people aren't quite familiar with around here. So I mean, they could really just further announce how much of a contender they're going to be if they're able to win this game. And another game I'm interested in seeing is a football game this weekend, Coney versus Scarborough, just to see how those teams match up. You get the A versus B. Scarborough has had all the success recently, and this will be a big test for Coney to see where they're at, and to see just kind of how close they are to being in line with that. I could see it being a Scarborough runaway. I could see it being close, considering that Scarborough has dropped 2 games this season. So that's going to be interesting to see just where those teams measure up and how close they are to each other.
Okay, Michael, any games that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I mentioned that Cape York field hockey game on Wednesday, but on Tuesday, very good girls soccer matchup, probably the Class B South regional final preview, where Cape Elizabeth's going to take on Yarmouth. Capers are undefeated going in, and they won in 2018, they won in 2019, they went undefeated in their limited schedule last year, and they're off to an 8-0 start. Led, of course, by Maggie Cochran. For my money, the best girls player in the state right now. She's going to be going to Northeastern. She already has 12 goals and 13 assists on the season. And Cape coach Graham Forsyth, he took over the program in 2018. He's 48-1. The Capers have won 38 games in a row. That's not shabby at all. But the one came to Yarmouth a couple years ago, early in the season. They wound up avenging it and then beating them again in the regional final. So if there's one team that can knock the Capers off, it's probably Yarmouth. So that's going to be a really good matchup to see where those two teams stand in their second and final regular season meeting, even though there's still a good ways to go before playoffs when they'll probably have a third. And then I think there's a sneaky good football game Friday night that isn't getting as much attention as some of the others, and that's South Portland hosting Kennebunk. Yeah, Kennebunk comes in at 2-2. South Portland's also 2-2. That game's going to be at Martin Memorial Field in South Portland. And the Red Riots view themselves as one of the top contenders in B South, and I think this is a chance for them to emphasize that and why they feel that way. It won't be easy, and Kennebunk's highly touted for good reason, but I think that's another game that keep an eye on because it could be a very compelling contest.
Definitely. Lots of good games all over the state for fans to get out to. We'd like to thank all the fans who were with us tonight. That's going to do it for Varsity Maine Live. Remember to check out all our coverage across the Maine Today platform. You're looking at pressherald.com, centralmaine.com, the Forecaster, Times Record, Sun Journal, varsitymaine.com. Best high school sports coverage in the state of Maine, or your money back. I will thank you all for being here. For Drew, for Michael, for Jake, I'm Travis Lazarczyk. Have a good night.